This is a reading from Akita, The Tears and Message of Mary. Witnesses. Testimony of Sister Y.I. with regard to the blood of the statue. What I remember best happened on Thursday, the 26th of July, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, while I was arranging flowers on the altar for Mass. Something which looked like a large clot of dark blood was on the hand of the statue, which had not been there before. I at once notified Sister T.K., who was in the kitchen, in order that she might come and verify it. About 3 o'clock we called the bishop so that he could see it. On Friday, the 27th of July in the morning, I saw Sister Agnes showing her hand to the bishop. Look at all this blood. I had come upon them by accident and only saw the bandage which was soaked with it. One could see that it was fresh blood. During all the month of July, the wound seemed to hurt, especially on Thursday evening and on Friday. According to what she said, it was like a serrated drill which transpierced her hand and caused it to bleed to such an extent that she was dispensed from clearing the table after meals. One remarks that the blood does not flow in streams, but that it accumulates, and that the wound of Sister Agnes causes her unbearable pain and is followed by rather an abundant hemorrhage. As is already indicated by the form of a cross, these phenomena show integral relation with the Passion of Christ. They suggest the importance of an active participation, compassion, in the sacrifice of the cross, not only by thought, but even to the point of sharing in the physical pain of Christ's suffering. This experience teaches us the necessity of offering all sufferings of our daily life in union with the Passion of Jesus. When the guardian angel appears to the sister while she is prostrate in the chapel at the end of her strength, the angel comforts her in drawing her attention to the meaning of the blood. Carefully engrave in the depth of your heart the thought of the blood of Mary, she counsels Sister, and then explains, this precious blood has been shed to ask your conversion, to ask for peace, in reparation for the ingratitudes and the outrages toward the Lord. By the prodigy of blood flowing from a wooden statue, God manifests that the pain of Mary conceived without sin is so profound that she sheds blood because of it. When Mary presented the infant Jesus in the temple 40 days after his birth, almost 2,000 years ago, the just Simeon prophesied, this child will be a sign of contradiction, and a sword will pierce your heart. Luke chapter 2, verse 34. In agreement with this prophecy, at the moment she assisted at the death of her son, standing at the foot of the cross, she felt her soul transpierced with a sword. All the sins of men committed from the beginning are the cause of the suffering of the Son of God on the cross. Likewise, today there is a close link between these three, our sins, the suffering of the crucified, and the suffering of the heart of Mary, a suffering unto the suffering of blood. That is why the angel recalls our attention once more to the profound meaning of the blood of Mary. For her part, Sister Agnes feels within her body an unheard of pain never before known, the experience of which is engraved in her memory. The wound, whose opening is not larger than the passage of a toothpick, causes her to break out into a heavy sweat. What must have been the suffering of him whose 2 feet were fixed to the wood by nails the thickness of a little finger? The experience of Sister Agnes reminds us in a very vivid way of the need to meditate on the sufferings of Jesus agonizing on the gibbet of the cross, and the sorrows which transpierce the heart of Mary. It is a pressing appeal to respond by praise and changing of life, to share the sacrifice of expiation in which Mary participated at the foot of the cross. Is that not the full meaning of this event? The angel gives the following interpretation. This precious blood has been shed in reparation for the ingratitude and the outrages committed against the Lord. It is not a question only of sins committed by non-Christians, but perhaps above all because of the attitude of us Christians who so often abuse divine grace. Then she announces that the blood is shed today for the last time, after which, as though to console Sister Agnes, she repeats with a smile that Sister Agnes's sufferings will end this same day. It all happened as the angel said. The trace of the wound was still visible on the statue for 2 months, but blood no longer flowed from it. The wound of Sister Agnes disappeared, and the pain vanished on the 27th of July without leaving the least trace. Padre Pio of the Capuchin order in Italy was among the great stigmatists of our century. His 2 hands, his 2 feet, and his side bled exactly like the 5 wounds of Christ. But every trace of the wounds was effaced immediately after his death, to the great astonishment of all. Photos taken 10 minutes after his death showed the surface skin smooth and white on his feet and hands. If the wound of Sister Agnes is much less impressive, it nevertheless presents the same particularity of having appeared and disappeared in an absolutely involuntary and mysterious manner. Translator's note: Father Yasuda does not address the question as to why identical wounds appeared on the left hand of Sister Agnes and on the right hand of the statue of Our Lady. 2 questions are implied here. A. Why the wound? B. Why on the right and left hands of 2 persons, one in heaven, Our Lady represented by the statue, and the other of a person here on earth? As Father Yasuda explains, this type of miraculous wound is called a stigmata. It indicates the stigmatized person's participation in the redemptive suffering of Jesus. Over 500 stigmatists have been recognized in the Church, although there have certainly been more. And stigmata usually are recognized to be miraculous when there's not just the sign of a wound, but actual bleeding, not caused by any natural means. Bleeding from the hand of a wooden statue is obviously a miracle, and since it is miraculous, we are compelled to ask what heaven is saying to us by causing the same wound to appear simultaneously on the right hand of the statue and on the left hand of Sister Agnes. Among other meanings, we can see here A. the doctrine to Jesus through Mary, taught by Saint Grignon de Montfort and recommended in the encyclical Redemptoris Mater, and B. the doctrine of co-redemption set forth in the same encyclical. Father Yasuda touches upon the latter, but because of the importance of the miracle in the full context of the messages of Fatima and Akita, and especially in light of the Redemptoris Mater, which appeared on March 25th, 1987, after Father Yasuda's book was written, let us briefly examine these 2 teachings of the Magisterium in that important encyclical of the 1987-88 Marian year. To Jesus through Mary. The first doctrine is that as Jesus came to the world a first time through Mary, so now he wills to come to the world again through her, but in an interior manner, making himself one with us. Saint Grignon says that true devotion to Mary always focuses on Jesus, while simultaneously recognizing the important role of Mary, both in the incarnation and redemption. He says that Mary is by grace what Jesus is by nature, and that we should lose ourselves completely in Mary's immaculate heart, in order that we may more quickly and perfectly become one with the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The blood flowing from the left hand of the sister and the right hand of Our Lady seems to symbolize the oneness of which Saint Grignon speaks. Our oneness with Mary, who is, in the order of grace, really and truly our mother. But more important, as Father Yasuda stresses, is the message of our calling to suffer with Mary, as she suffered in all of her sorrows, and especially on Calvary, for the salvation of souls. Co-redeemers. We are called to be co-redeemers with Jesus, and according to Saint Grignon de Montfort, the most perfect way to respond is to unite ourselves to the most perfect of his co-redeemers, his own mother, whom he gave to us from the cross to be also our mother. St. Paul said, Colossians chapter 1, verse 24, that by suffering he makes up for what is lacking in the sufferings of Christ. This does not mean that there was something more that Jesus had to suffer, but that we are called to suffer with him. We are called to help in the salvation of souls. We are called to be co-redeemers. Monsignor Knox translates Colossians chapter 1, verse 24. I am glad I helped pay off the debt which the afflictions of Christ will still leave to be paid for the sake of his body, the church. As we shall see later in this book, Our Lady has revealed at Akita that she has already been able to hold back a great chastisement of mankind by offering to the Father the passion of Jesus, his precious blood and beloved souls who console him, forming a cohort of victim souls.